Oh, hi, Shane. Jamie Wallace here, and I thought it would be easiest just to show you in this short video what my thoughts were based on your question here about placing lots of different plants in patterns, maybe tree rows, and how the planting tool works with that. So let me show you what I would do. There's probably many, many ways that one can go about this. But here's one that sort of jumps out at me. And let us say these lines here were your tree rows. They could be this too. And well, maybe we'll do the curved one first. So what I've got here on the left is I've got a data tag, but I've also got three different plant symbols. It doesn't really matter what they are. You could have 8, you could have 10. I think you mentioned here each row may vary between 2 and 8, and a lot of it depends on whether your client wants a syntropic system or just a straightforward multi-strata row. So let's, you could use this for any application you want. So what I would do is you get your 3 plant, in this case, we have 3 plant symbols. And there's a couple of ways you could do this. The first way, you could create a 2D locus here, and you could, let me see here, what we're going to do, we're going to click on the 2D locus and on that line, and then we're going to go up to the command that is duplicate a long path. And I don't know if that's actually been included in the video here. So let me just stop sharing and make sure that I get the whole desktop. Okay, I think I got the whole desktop now. There we go. Back to Vectorworks. So we've got a 2D locus here that I've highlighted. And I'm also going to select this line. And then we're going to go up to edit, duplicate along path. And we have to select a path object, which it's done. So down here, I'm going to say, well, let's put a loci every 15 meters. And we're going to center it. And you can even offset this. But here, let's say 0. And we can preview that. And you can see all the 2D loci that are placed along that line at 15-meter intervals. So that's one way of getting some specific spacings that you wanted. You could then take your planting tool and let's say you've got this tree here and we're on a multi placement. So let's say you decided you wanted to do every third. I'm not going to do any more, but that's basically how we could place those plants and then maybe do these in between, that sort of thing. And perhaps the last one here. Right, so you could theoretically go along and snap to these locus, right? But I think there's an easier way of doing this. I would consider highlighting one of the tree symbols and the line itself. And again, go into that duplicate along path. And regardless of what units you're in here, we can always place another unit. So let's say your trees are on 15, well, let's say 30-meter spacings, and we're not going to have any offset. And let's just preview that and see what it looks like. It'll take us a few seconds. There we go. So boom. We're going to say OK. And as you can see, it goes all the way down along that line at 15-meter spacing. So that works for one species. So if you wanted to add to this line, let's say we use this other tree and we do the same thing, duplicate along path. And we're going to have a 30-meter spacing here, but we're going to offset. And the first one's going to be, let's say 10-meter. And then let's preview that. There we go. That looks good. Boom, away we go. And let's say we want to add one more. So same idea. It's a very handy tool, this one. Use it for many different objects. So again, we're going to do 30-meter. And our first offset is maybe 20-meter. And we're going to preview that. And then we'll say OK. And again, we have evenly spaced plants all the way along that line. That line could be, as long as you want. Now, what I would suggest when you have created a row like this, that you actually group those trees and make them one. And then the advantage to this is we could use a data tag. Just going to bring that in here. Not sure if you use data tags, but they are super helpful. And there we go. And if we zoom in, we can see that that's almost rubra. It's in a number 1 size. We got the wrong one here. No, these are all single. There we go. So we got 39 cornice mass here. So again, that's you'd want to group these if you're wanting to do any callouts. And it's easy to do if we forget. We can click on that and change plant groupings. And then, of course, if we press the Option key and just click and drag, we duplicate that label. And we can click on there, and you can see we've got 43 of those because we're counting both of these lines, both of these rows. Now, if you wanted to use a curved line, it's the same idea. We have our plant symbol here. Click on the row, go to Edit, and duplicate along path. Oops, it's not showing up because I don't have both those. Oh. Here we are. And we'll say that that is a 10-meter spacing. And we're just going to start it right at the beginning of the row. And then, of course, we get to preview that, make sure it's going to work. And away we go. So that is how I would place a large number of plants, provided you have a pattern established. So whether that's keyline or contour or whatever tree line that you are choosing to use. And I hope that helps you. Let me just see if you had any other. So we can just keep adding to this. You could have herbaceous plants beneath these, and you can do the same thing. Let's just, for instance, say we've got some let's say we've got a bunch of strawberries here, which is a tiny little symbol. You could do the same thing where you click that and you click your line. We're going to duplicate along path. And then we're going to, let's say we're going to plant these 1.5 every 1.5 feet. And we're going to bring it in off the edge say 3 feet. And make sure you have this selected, center object on path. Then we're going to just, again, preview that. Now that's a lot of symbols that it's going to generate. So you're probably going to have to wait 1 minute, as you can see, even with a robust computer. And there we go. So there's all your strawberries. And if we say OK, it's going to, again, take a few seconds to place all those. It may be more than a few seconds. But I guess the point here is you can just keep populating this line. And if you develop a pattern, it can be replicated all the way through, provided that you're looking at your spacing as well as any offset from the end of that line. So we're just waiting for the, unfortunately, I selected a symbol that has a lot of detail, even though it's a very small plant. So that's creating some challenges for Vectorworks here, which I'm sure it'll overcome. There we go. And once you place those, we can change the plant grouping, which is going to create another challenge. Just have to wait a few seconds here. And then once that is done, it's going to behave as one plant. So if you label it, it'll pick up basically all those numbers that are in that row. And while we're patiently waiting, yeah, I hope that helps you out. This works if you stick with a fixed pattern. If you were being a little more random, you'd have to, that would be much harder. If you wanted to be more random, then placing 2D loci on your line and then coming in behind it with your plant placement tool and just snapping to all of those loci that you wish to place a plant on. That would probably be the easiest way to do it. But as you can see, when you have a lot of plants and you have a little bit of a complex geometry on the symbol, you have to wait for some actions like grouping or ungrouping to take a little bit of time. And that is with the computer I have is an iMac Pro with 64 gigs of RAM and lots of video, and 10 cores, so it really doesn't matter. It won't crash, that's a good thing, but that's probably what you'll find as you're doing more and more, adding more and more plants to your drawing. It may end up slowing down a little bit. So we're still waiting here. And it's going to finish up eventually. This is one of the weaknesses of Vectorworks that I hope they work on in time, is just the plant geometry and how much that affects larger drawings. So if you are going to place, hundreds or thousands of a specific plant, you definitely want to make sure their symbol, the 2D symbol, is extremely simple. And a symbol like this has it's fairly simple, but you can see there's a lot of dots in here, and plus it has some of these symbols can have, like this one can have, instead of solid fill, it will have just pause the recording here, Sean. Still waiting for my strawberries to land on the line here. There's quite a few, I'm sure. So anyways, what I was getting at with these plant symbols is if you modify, you can see this has a solid color. It's all of the same throughout. And then this one has a gradient. So the gradient is great for smaller drawings, but when, again, you're multiplying those out in the hundreds, you can, get a situation like this where you have to wait for a little bit. But I'm just going to pause this again and wait until this process is completed.